Margaret's husband, John, had passed away a year ago, but she still felt his presence. The sprawling Victorian mansion they had shared for 40 years seemed to whisper his name through its narrow corridors and labyrinthine rooms. However, the whispers grew louder when she stepped into the attic. Margaret had always thought of the attic as John's sanctuary, a place for his endless collections: taxidermy, antique books, faded maps, and peculiar trinkets. But there was one door at the end of the attic that she had never entered, a locked, unassuming door that John strictly warned her to never open. Sentimental stuff, he'd always said. Old love letters, childhood memories, better left untouched. But curiosity, fueled by a sense of emptiness, finally got the best of her. A week after the anniversary of John's death, she ventured into the attic with a rusty key she had found tucked in his sock drawer. Her hand shook as she unlocked the door and stepped inside. The room was empty. Completely empty. Not just devoid of furniture or trinkets, but lacking any features. The walls seemed to absorb light, creating an unsettling void. And then she saw it. A mirror at the far end of the room. A simple, antique mirror with an ornate silver frame. As she walked towards it, her reflection seemed to lag, each step syncopating with a disorienting delay. When she finally stood before it, she felt a chill crawl up her spine. The reflection showed her standing in the room, but behind her she could see John. He looked young, like when they had first met, and he was smiling. "John!" She turned around sharply, but there was no one. When she looked back into the mirror, her reflection was alone. Baffled and frightened, Margaret hurried out and locked the door. She descended the stairs, her legs trembling with every step. She tried to forget what she saw, dismissing it as a trick of light or perhaps a manifestation of her loneliness. Days passed, but Margaret couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. The house felt different, colder, and somehow less familiar. She started to find old photographs of her and John, pictures she had never seen before, randomly placed in drawers or under cushions. They depicted happier times, but in each one, John looked younger and younger, while she appeared increasingly haggard. Things took a darker turn one night when she woke up to a voice whispering her name. Following the sound, she found herself back in the attic, in front of the locked door. This time, she didn't need a key. It swung open at her touch. In a trance, she stepped inside. The room was no longer empty. It looked like a study now, filled with antiquities, and the mirror now reflected the room in full detail. Margaret felt a wave of nostalgia as she recognized John's handwriting scattered on the desk. But before she could touch anything, her eyes met her reflection. She screamed. Her reflection was grotesque, twisted with age and decay, while behind it stood John, younger still, looking vibrant and full of life. Her scream seemed to shatter the trance, and she staggered back, hitting the wall. But instead of feeling the hard surface of the wall, she fell through, as if passing through a veil. Margaret found herself in an unrecognizable space, neither the room nor the attic, but something in between, a dark void. A figure emerged, and she recognized John, now as young as he was when they first met. "Forgive me, Margaret," he said, his eyes filled with sorrow and something darker. "I needed time, and you had so much to give." Before she could reply, the space around her began to collapse, and she felt herself shrinking, condensing into a point of pure, searing agony, until she was nothing. In the mansion, a new photograph appeared on the mantel. It showed John, young and beaming, arm around a woman who was strikingly beautiful but strangely unfamiliar. The woman had Margaret's smile, but none would recognize her now, not even in her own reflection. John closed the door to the forgotten room, a hint of regret in his eyes. It was time to sell the house and move on. After all, time was what he had. Time borrowed, time stolen, but never enough time to change what he had become. Thank you so much for watching today's video. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please take a moment to give it a like If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you'll never miss an upload.